Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Marty Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Risa Groux. Risa is a functional nutritionist and certified autoimmune coach. And today we're going to be talking on the topic, the 6 most popular mainstream diets, their benefits, and their drawbacks. Welcome, Risa.
Thank you, Myrna. It's great to be here.
You're very welcome. Yes, I am going to enjoy our conversation today. Because I'm actually very, very confused right now about diet and losing weight because I've been trying everything, not everything, but a lot of stuff, and it's not seemed to be doing it's not seemed to be going anywhere. So I'm personally going to learn from our conversation today. All right, so let me give you a little bit background information on Risa. Risa Groux, CN, is a functional nutritionist and certified autoimmune coach and author of FoodFrame. Diet is a 4-letter word. She has always been passionate about nutrition and good health. Risa was so concerned with purity that she made her children's baby food from scratch. Today, she's passionate about cooking and creating healthy, nutritious food. She works with a wide array of clients, from professional athletes, adults, and kids to the biggest loser in season 4. Risa works with issues like diabetes, autoimmune disease, cancer, digestion, thyroid, and hormone imbalances, to name a few. Risa firmly believes that the body can heal itself with whole foods we obtain from the earth and sees living proof of that in her office every day. She looks at root causes using functional nutritional guidelines, blood and stool tests, and knows that weight loss is a side effect of wellness. All right, so that's a great intro, and I love that. I think I'm well, but I'm still having some problems with weight loss. So, all right, so Risa, I normally like to start off my my interview with kind of a background so that the listening audience can get a feel from your work for what got you to this point today. And I understand that most of your work is centered around, autoimmune diseases that cause chronic inflammation, because that was your journey. Can you share your journey to becoming a health coach?
Sure, absolutely. So I was always very passionate about food. I grew up in a house. My mom was always on a diet, and some foods are fattening and you can't have that. And I thought, why? I was just so confused. Why is this food okay to eat, but that food not so much? And, and then my grandma was always on a diet, and nobody was particularly that overweight, but everybody was perpetually on a diet. And I remember my grandma used to go to the fat farm, was what she would call it, every year. I soon found out it was Canyon Ranch. She was going to the spa, but it was just we were just all this language around being fat and dieting and deprivation. And I just, of course I was like, of course, I'm, in high school on a diet thinking, should I be dieting? It's all this craziness. Right. So it wasn't until years later that I always was interested in food, but it wasn't until years later that I really sort of had to force myself into really focusing on what I ate, because I was diagnosed with Hashimotos, which is an autoimmune disease to your thyroid, where your body is creating all these antibodies and it finds a gland, a tissue, or an organ in which to plant itself on. And in my case, it was Hashimoto's in my thyroid. So I didn't, then I really got very heightened about what I was eating. And I was always passionate about food, and I always ate really healthy and exercised and did all that stuff because I valued my health. And then once I went on the Hashimoto's journey, I was just determined to figure out, what is this going on? Why did I get this? How can I reverse this? And the conventional allopathic medicine community was very pill for an ill, as that's what it does. And so it just gave me a pill, said, take this Synthroid, you'll be fine. I said, well, how long do I take it for? And the doctor said, every day. And I said, no, for how long? And he said, forever. And I went, what? Why is my body not producing something that I need to take something synthetic for, right? Shouldn't the question here be, why are you not producing this? And, why was my thyroid this underachiever and now in a state of attack? And so I really started to dig in, and I really got to the root of it. And so I became a functional nutritionist, meaning that I practice the 4 major pillars of functional medicine or functional nutrition, and they are looking at root causes. Why is it that we have headaches, right? It's not because we have a deficiency in Tylenol, right? Why do we have high cholesterol? Why do we have constipation? Why do we have depression? Whatever it is, anxiety, there's a root cause to that. It's not because we have this deficiency in medication. We're born with that.
And you're saying it can always be linked back to what you're eating?
Not necessarily always what you're eating, but what you're eating is definitely hindering or helping.
Okay.
So there could be a pathogen in your gut. There could be blood sugar dysregulation. There could be, low thyroid, all of these things where food absolutely either is contributing or, to the growth of it or to the reverse of it. So absolutely what we eat matters. But I'm always looking at those root causes. That's why I do extensive blood tests and stool tests, because I want to know what's going on. I'm not really good at guessing. I cannot play darts with the lights off and I cannot see the target. I'm not really good, right? That's what we already do in conventional medicine. In functional nutrition, we know the facts, right? So we're looking at in addition to root causes, we're looking for prevention. Because in allopathic medicine, we look at our reference ranges. They get wider and wider and wider. And a lot of things people don't realize is that every lab removes the top 2.5% and the bottom 2.5%. So they usually use the 95% in the middle. And so depending on what's coming into your local lab, they're moving that range to where it's normal, where the average is. So you could be diagnosed with something in the state of Florida, but not in the state of Nevada or Mississippi.
Really?
Right?
Wow.
Yes, because of the reference ranges. I tested it actually with my son in the same exact building. I went to Quest Labs and LabCorp about 6 weeks apart, and I went through and I had time to the reference ranges, and some are the same, some move by a little bit, and some are a little bit wider. So in functional medicine or functional nutrition, we don't move those ranges. That's what the range is. And then so we're looking at prevention, we're looking at root causes. And then we believe that the body is one interconnective unit. So everything has to do with each other, right? So your headache might have something to do with your blood sugar or your adrenal glands or whatever it is. And it's not, in conventional medicine, we have different doctors and specialists and different organs and body parts and things. And then the 4th pillar that I focus on is I look at data. I cannot guess. I'm not good at guessing. I mean, I could a little bit, but we're all going to get frustrated if I do. So I want to see data. So I order very lengthy blood tests, look at all 10 markers of your thyroid. I'm looking at all 4 markers of your blood sugar. I'm looking at all your inflammation numbers, because at the end of the day, we know that inflammation is the driver of disease. Right. And getting back to your question about weight loss, if we've got a fire in the basement, which I say to people all the time, we've got this raging fire in the basement, your doctor might give you a little squirt gun, or you might be trying it with a squirt gun yourself, right? But I got to bring in the hose and get that fire out, because if we have a fire in the basement, we're going to hold on to all of our resources. The body's not going to give it up, because it may need it in the future, right? It's like I always say to people, you've got a raging fire in the basement, but somebody's on the 2nd floor saying, can you help me change the light bulb? You're like, what? I got this fire, right? And you're happy to change the light bulb once you get the fire out. So that's another consideration, is how much of a fire do you have, right? Well, is that why you're not losing weight? So those are what we look at. And in my office, I look at 2 foundational issues. One is systemic inflammation, as I mentioned, that is the driver of disease. We know that now for sure with COVID. People were going into 3rd stage inflammation. It was going into the respiratory tract and disease, right? And then the other is gut health, and gut health is extraordinarily important. So we need those to optimize our health.
Right.
That's what I'll do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
well,
I'm 10 points away from reversing my Hashimotos.
Oh, really? Okay. Good for you. Right. Okay. Well, one of my favorite books that I read, one of the first things it says that, you should read Think and Grow Rich, and then you should read a nutrition book. And, I concentrate on all these mindset and energy and all this stuff. And I personally has been dealing with the battle of the bulls since I came into menopause, and I work hard on it, but I'm not seeing any kind of improvement. And I did what you just talked about. I said to I said to my gynecologist, I need to have a hormone test. Right. And I'm going to see him next week, and we're gonna discuss it, because he says, well, I already know that your hormones are going to be in balance because you're in menopause.
Right.
Right.
Estrogen goes down.
Yes, right, exactly. So I'm hoping that, as you talk to, my listening audience, I would also pick up a few things on that. So that's very good that what you mentioned about food is either hindering, or it is or it's helping, right? And that's basically what I've been doing. I've been trying this and this and this and that. I walk a 5K every morning, and I'm in the sunshine. I told you, in Florida, and I eat healthy. But anyway, so this is not all about me, but everybody
There's 5 reasons why we don't lose weight typically, right? In addition to some information. One is blood sugar dysregulation, which I test for insulin resistance, and most allopathic doctors do not test for that. So I'm looking at a C-peptide and a fasting insulin, in addition to hemoglobin A1C and glucose. So that's number one, is if you have insulin resistance, it's very difficult to lose weight. Number 2, thyroid dysregulation. That is our metabolism, our temperature gauge. It's our burner, right? That tells me, are you able to lose weight, right?
Yeah, my thyroid is good, because I told you I just took that hormone thing, and I was thinking it was probably something to do with my thyroid, but my thyroid is in the normal range, so it's in that.
And is that all markers, or is it just your TSH that they're looking at?
I have no clue, but it says something about normal range, and mine is in a normal range.
All right. Okay. And then the third one is cortisol. That's our stress hormone, right?
Right.
So stress really does drive up cortisol. We will not lose weight when we have high cortisol, or really low cortisol for that matter either. And then 4, you just named it, sex hormone imbalance. That's a huge reason why we can't lose weight, or why we easily gain weight. I tested
for the sex hormones too. So, I think they're in normal range, but then we'll discuss it. But yeah, right. Okay.
And then the fifth one is an overload of toxins. So that's why I'm big on detoxing. I do a detox all the time. I just had a detox shake just now. I'm always detoxing, and it's really important because we are inundated with chemicals. The FDA in America, this is a brand new number. I hate to report it. We have been approved for 86,000 chemicals. 86,000 chemicals.
Wow.
So
let's spend a little time there. So how do you detox, or how do you suggest that people detox?
Yeah. So let me just give you some more stats there, that 86,000, over 3,000 of which are foods that we can eat, right? And let me just tell you that Europe just came out with a list of 1,600 chemicals that they banned just for their cosmetics. At the same time, the US banned 11. So we have toxins everywhere. They're in our makeup, they're in our clothes, they're in our paint, they're in our furniture, they're in our food, they are in our cosmetics, they are in our sunscreen, in our shampoos, our conditioners, our perfume is toxins, right? Fragrances are toxins. Deodorant is a really great place to get toxins. Bug spray, candles. We're just breathing those in. Any kind of air fresheners. I know every time we get into an Uber, we have all these air fresheners. Those are just all toxins. So we are breathing them all the time. And just to give you a quick example, I worked with Freddie Couples, who's one of the greatest golfers of all time. And he lived on 2 golf courses. And of course, he worked on golf courses. And he came in to see me. He had a lot of smell sensitivity. If he would smell any kind of perfume, he'd get a headache. He was always having lots of issues. He had massive back pain. And there was nothing structurally wrong, we found out. It was all inflammation, because I did extensive testing. But we detoxed him, and he's breathing in the chemicals that these golf courses are being treated with, and he was really in bad shape. So once we detoxed him, his pain went away completely, that he had been living with for years. So I could give you a million examples, but detoxing the right way is really important. When toxins come into the system, the liver kind of deciphers, are you part of the system, or are you something foreign that I have to convert you into an enzyme so I can process you? If it is an enzyme, typically, if it's a toxin that goes to an enzyme and it goes out, that's great. But if it isn't, it gets stored in fat tissues and fat cells. This is why we lose weight when we detox. But toxins do a tremendous amount of damage, especially in the intestinal lining, where they get reabsorbed all day over and over and over again. And one of the markers that we look for on blood tests is called the homocysteine, and that tells us if you're able to detoxify your own heavy metals and your own toxins. So really important to look at that marker as well. But okay. I detox probably 3 times a year. I have a lot of people in my office who do it 4 times a year. Even if you just did it twice a year, you'd be way better off than not doing it at all. But I have my own detox, the RGN Detox, which your listeners have 10% off. Okay. The detox for 3 months after it drops. And you're drinking collagen shakes filled with amino acids and antioxidants that help open up pathways 1 and 2. And then you're eating real food. So you're eating animal protein, you're eating unlimited vegetables, sweet potato, yams, and some good fats, eggs, nuts, seeds, olives, avocados. And we're trying to eat not foods from a package, not foods with preservatives, not dyes, not chemicals, no alcohol. Our food is very, very sprayed with pesticides. So it's a very easy way to get toxins in the system that way. So It's important to take out the trash.
Okay. So that's awesome. Yeah. You probably hit the nail right in the head with that. Right. So I'm definitely going to look into it. Because I haven't detoxed in a long time.
And weight loss, my philosophy is weight loss is a side effect of wellness. And I focus on wellness. And I tell people all the time, everybody loses weight on the detox. Women typically lose between 4 and 7 pounds, but some people lose more. And then men lose crazy amounts, 7 to 15 pounds. Wow. But it's not a weight loss program. I know people like to do it for the weight loss, but it's really a cleaning of the liver and the blood.
Right. It's like cleaning so that you wouldn't be gaining anymore. That's what we're talking about, right? It's not right. Exactly. So that's awesome. So you have got this on your website?
Yes. That Risa Groux Nutrition.
What was that?
Risa Groux Nutrition. It's on my website. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's awesome. All right. So all right, guys. So I'm going to have a link to Lisa's website so that you guys can go on and get that detox. She said there's 10% off. Is there a coupon for that, or that's general?
I'll give you the code for that. Yeah, okay, you can.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to put that on there too. So you see, I told you I'm going to get something out of this right away, and I'm hoping that you guys too, because she talks about the 4 ways that you can lose weight. So that's also good to check on and just cross off what might apply to you and what might not apply to you, because like she said, she grew up in a household where people weren't even overweight, but they're conscious of weight. And we should all be conscious of weight, whether you're overweight, underweight, the right weight, you're maintaining, you're losing weight, or you want to gain weight. You're in one of those 3 buckets. So it's amazing. And of course, a lot of women, when they get past 35, which is what happened with me, then you're not even in menopause yet. But once you get past 35, then your body starts changing and your hormones start changing and you start putting on the pounds. It's just amazing. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about the 6 most popular mainstream diets. I started, working with Paleo the other day. And in the past, Atkins is not on this list here, but in the past, I've done Atkins, and I understand Paleo and Atkins are about the same. And of course, ketogenic, I understand that. I've done a little bit of that as well. But then you talk about the autoimmune protocol, never heard of that one. And of course, we all know vegan. And then you talk about a low food map or FODMAP and a low lectin. So can you talk about those 6 main?
Yeah, let's break them down. So yeah, and let me tell you the philosophy that drove me to write this book.
Okay.
I've been doing what I do for many, many, many years. And when I first started, I would bring everybody, people would come in and I'd be like, this is what to eat. This is what not to eat. And I started to do their blood labs and I realized that every body is different. And if you have low blood sugar, you're going to eat very differently than somebody who has high blood sugar. If you have thyroid, you're going to eat very different than somebody who doesn't. If you're autoimmune, same thing. So what I started to gather is that we should all be eating according to our health status, not so much that there's a book that comes out written by somebody very credible and they say, this is what to eat. Go on the low lectin diet. It works. And it does. It works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for everybody.
No.
And same thing with keto. Keto is great for lots of people, but not everybody. I personally couldn't get into the state of ketosis. I kept trying and trying and trying, and I just couldn't get into ketosis without exogenous help. So I didn't want to do that. People who don't have gallbladders should not be doing keto. People who have a lot of adrenals, cortisol production, stress, do not do well on keto. Women typically don't do well on keto. So I'll start there with keto. So
Okay.
I broke this down and created my FoodFrame method. And that is why I wrote the book, is because I think it's so important that not one size fits all. It's not this new, this new diet type that is going to be the miracle. It might be for some, but not for everybody.
Well, let me ask you a question right there, because I wasn't aware that nutritionists take blood. So you're basing this from your clients where you're testing them, and then you're deciding on a nutritional plan for them.
Correct.
Is that only with functional nutritionists, or all nutritionists take blood?
I don't know any. Yeah, I don't know any other conventional nutritionists or dietitians who take blood. But I order blood labs and stool tests, because then I know.
So. I thought that was different. Okay, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So then I know, right? I know if you have H. pylori, or if you have Giardia, or you have Candida, or you have parasites, how do we, help that? We've got a fire in the basement. I'm going, eat a couple less carrots, Myrna. How's that going to work for you, right? You're like, it's not about starvation. It's about finding out if there's a fire in the basement, right? So keto stands for ketogenic, and it's basically getting the body in the state of ketosis. When we are in the state of ketosis, it basically changes our fuel source. So now everybody is born to have a fuel source from carbohydrates, sugar. Any carbs turn into sugar, and sugar creates the pancreas to pump out insulin. And then it creates that insulin, and that insulin converts that sugar or carbohydrate and converts it into glycogen, puts it in the cell, and it's used for energy. ATP is what we make from the mitochondria within the cell. So, this is difficult for people who have insulin resistant. I mean, it's good for people who have blood sugar issues because it helps. But so when you go into the state of ketosis, you're changing that fuel source from a carbohydrate to fat. So we have very, very, very little carbohydrates. And I mean, less than 20 net carbs in a day, which is low. And maybe 5% of your diet is in carbohydrates. And all foods have carbohydrates except for animal protein and fats like oils. Olives are really low. And so what happens is your fuel source, you're starting to create ketones. We would see ketones in your urine. That means you're burning fat for fuel. And it's great for that person. Most men do really well with keto. Not all women do well with keto. But
my husband is actually on it. He does it with the intermittent fasting.
Perfect. You must be losing.
15 hours a day. And anyway, and he's lost 30, 40 pounds on it.
Exactly. That's the person who does it. He's perfect for that. He probably has his gallbladder. Yeah. So that's a perfect person for that. Women don't do as well. And, but some women do. But again, this is not something I would recommend if you don't have a gallbladder. If you have, I check for steatocrit in a stool test to see if you have fat malabsorption. If you don't have any fat malabsorption issues, try it as a woman. If you have a lot of stress, it may not work for you. But I would recommend getting a urine stick so you can check it every morning to see if you're in the state of ketosis.
Oh, really? So
keto.
Let's stop there for a minute. So you can get a stick and check it?
At Walgreens, CVS. Yeah.
Okay.
Amazon. And that's what I did, is I would pee on the stick every morning to see if I'm in the state of ketosis. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a great tip. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm not good with guessing, as I told you. I don't like it. I want to know. So yeah, so that
To the
is,
benefits. So what are the drawbacks? I guess you told me if you have a
so you're eating a lot of fat. You're eating a lot of fat. You have to really sustain yourself on animal protein and fat. So this is the person who wants all the cheese and the bacon they can have. You can have all the cream and all the sausages, all that. You can eat that. The hard part about keto, it's hard to get enough fiber, because all fiber sources are plants. They all have carbohydrates.
Right,
So
right.
a lot of people can find that they get constipated on this. So water, 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 water. And some kind of fiber is what I would recommend. I'm not a big fan for keto longer than 3 months. I would say take a break for a week or two, get out of ketosis, you can get back in it. It takes a little bit of time to get into it, very easy to get out of it. And some people will experience the keto flu, is what they call it. You feel like you're coming down with the flu for the first few days while you're getting into the state of ketosis. I never felt that, because I really never got into the state.
Never got into it. All right.
But you can take ketones to help you get in there. But yeah, for somebody with blood sugar issues and wants to lose a lot of weight, like your husband would be perfect. I mean, I don't know what his situation is, but what he's doing is perfect for that person.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. All right.
Yeah. Okay. And then paleo is my favorite probably of all of them, because it is really the most broadest appeal. So almost everybody should be doing paleo rather, and you can be doing it. It's very safe. You could do it long term. It's how I eat. And really it goes down to the Paleolithic times. And so you're eating the philosophy of when we were created, how did we eat? And we ate animal protein as clean quality as possible, because there's another source of toxins. We have a lot of growth hormones and antibiotics in our meats. And then our chickens are just eating just grains and things that they're not supposed to be eating. And they weren't born to eat. And our fish is farmed and filled with chemicals also. So it's really important to eat good quality. You can have unlimited vegetables any way you want them, except for deep fried. We make a couple exceptions, like no corns, peas, or string beans, really very often. We take out legumes, we take out grains, we take out dairy, we take out sugar and processed foods. So you're having sweet potato, yams, good fats, very similar to my detox. My detox is very paleo. So, and I love this. It's really the easiest one to do. You can stay on it long term, and you're really removing the high carby foods and the inflammatory foods. Bread, sugar, dairy, alcohol. You can have a little bit of alcohol on paleo, but like tequila, gin, vodka, things like that. No beer.
Well, that's interesting, because one of my sponsors is Green Chef, and they set me up with paleo recipes. And I've been using them, but I didn't even know what it meant. I know that it had something to do with, like I said, something similar to Atkins, where low carbs and high protein, because the food that they sent me were all vegetables and protein. I didn't know what it meant. So now, if you're saying that this is the best diet, can you expand on what it does? And is it just clean eating or what?
The whole point of paleo is to decrease that systemic inflammation and increase good gut health. So it has a lot of fiber, which is really good for the microbiome, for general good diversity and gut health. We're removing the sugar, the dairy, the grains, and the legumes. And legumes, I'll get into that a little later when we talk about lectins, but they're hard to digest. If you don't have enough digestive enzymes in the system, you're going to have a hard time breaking them down. And they're also filled with tons of carbohydrates. So I am a former vegan myself, and I lived on beans specifically, a little bit of grains, but not much. And my blood sugars, I just watched go through the roof. I was almost pre-diabetic. And it was just because I was eating so many beans at every meal. Lentils and garbanzo beans and hummus and black beans. And I mean, usually, right? That's your protein
source. My question, because I came back from a cruise, and I was on this cruise for 3 weeks. And I came back and I thought that my weight was going to go through the roof, because of course I couldn't wait when I was there, and I didn't gain a pound. And I came back, and all of a sudden I have gained 3 pounds. And I thought that I was doing really well by adopting what I learned on the cruise. The cruise will give you soup first, and then they will give you your course meals and dessert. I don't eat the dessert. But what I've been doing is eating pea soup.
Yep, very high carb. Myrna, we need to talk.
I just question.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so the people that are listening, what Lisa just said, or Risa just said, is that beans has a lot of carbs, even though they tell you that beans are very good for you, which is why
and they are. There's good polyphenols, there's good fiber. There are great benefits to beans, but people don't realize they add up. You might as well eat a Twinkie, right? It's the same thing. You're having that many carbs that your insulin is producing, and you're spiking your blood sugar levels.
That's serious. All right. Okay, keep going. All right. So,
Okay, so that's paleo.
Right.
So yes.
Are there any drawbacks to paleo? Because you said
not really, no.
The benefits and the drawbacks.
No,
None?
it's easy to travel with.
Wow.
It's just easy, period. So and it's not that I don't ever eat a bean. I was at dinner the other night and I had a salad with garbanzo beans and I ate them. But I don't know when the last time I had them. So every now and then I do.
Have them every bloody day.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. Now it'll be interesting if you just remove that to see what happens at the scale. Yeah. Okay, so we got through keto and paleo. Then we're going to go to vegetarian or vegan. And there's, in my book, I go in great detail with this. There's different types of vegetarians. You know, I meet vegetarians all the time. They come in my office and I'm like, I'm vegetarian. I go, okay, so what are we eating? And they're usually eating bread and Oreos, French fries, Coke. You know, these are all vegetarian foods, but they are not good for us. They're processed foods. So you can fall into that trap of processed diet. And occasionally I do meet a real vegetarian who actually eats vegetables, but they have to have some protein source. So again, there's the beans and the grains, nuts and the seeds. So it's not something I recommend for everyone. I really don't recommend. I eat eating vegetarian or vegan for most people, but I do recommend eating a lot of plants, no matter what, because we were born to eat plants. But there's a gene mutation that I test everybody I work with for called MTHFR. It's very common. I have it. Both my kids have it. It's genetic, and 90% of the population has it. And it basically means that we don't methylize our B12 and or our folate or B9. So it's really important, especially for those people with a B12, you've got to get it from external sources. And being vegetarian is just not that great for you if you have that allele. So I'm just not a huge fan of vegetarian, but I know people are really tied to it. When I was vegetarian, not really a moral thing so much, but because I wanted to eat clean, because our protein is so, I mean, I just was driving down from Northern California a couple weekends ago and I saw these huge cattle farms, or what they were cattle farms, and all this big land. And now there's just the cows under this roof, and they're just eating from the troughs. They're just eating grain. There's no grass on the entire place. There's a huge factory, huge factories.
I understand that that's what's happening to the cows now. I don't eat a lot of beef, so beef is not my thing. So, because I've learned a long time that beef is bad for you. But yeah, the beef, you know, milk and all that too comes in with the hormones that they're feeding the cows, and the cows are not eating grass, and
they're eating antibiotics and all that stuff because, you know, they want to fatten them up. So it works for them, it works for us, right? That's how we do it. So, so that's vegetarian. And then let's talk about AIP. AIP stands for autoimmune protocol. And it is basically for anybody who has autoimmune disease. You could do it if you don't, but it's fairly restrictive. It's an elimination diet. So it's 30 to 90 days. And I would recommend if you have 1 or 2 or more autoimmune, you go for 90 days as best you can. It's very restrictive. It's paleo. However, we're removing nightshades. So that's tomatoes, potatoes, all potatoes except for sweet potato and yams, eggplant and peppers of any kind. So anything but black pepper. So paprika, red peppers, you know, jalapenos. And then and goji berries, and then they're removing nuts, seeds, eggs. So it is very restrictive. They bring in a little bit of fruit, but very little berries, a little bit of apple, things like that. But it's pretty restrictive. And the whole point is to quell the inflammation that's driving these antibodies that are causing that cytokine storm.
Well, circle back. So you're saying that the foods that you remove are foods that contribute to inflammation?
Correct. If you have autoimmune, nightshades are foods that are high in lectins, which I'll get to next. But lectins can cause inflammation. Yes.
Well, Dr. Stephen Gundry has been, talking about this all the time, about lectins and, how these things go through your barrier in your stomach and you shouldn't eat them. And I listen and I'm thinking, why is tomatoes bad? But you're just saying exactly the same thing.
Right.
I don't eat eggplant, so that's out of, I'm allergic to it. But nightshade is, what are some of the nightshade vegetables again? I know there's tomatoes. What else is there?
Tomatoes of all kind, potatoes of all kind, except for sweet potato and yams, different family, eggplant and peppers, any kind of pepper except for black pepper.
Right.
Goji berries. Yeah. So, and Gundry, he endorsed my book. He's on the cover of my book. I'm doing his podcast actually in a couple of weeks, but he is actually right on all the research he did about lectins. And lectins basically, we all, as human living organisms, we all have a defense mechanism, right? If we're being attacked, humans, we can kick, bite, scream, flee, call 911, right? Plants don't have that ability. So what they have is what I call a hard candy shell around them. And it's around the germ or the seed. So they say, I want to just survive and procreate just like humans, right? Those are our two main goals as living organisms. And so they have this protective coating. Now, if you have a very acidic stomach, you have enough digestive enzymes in your gut, you're going to be able to break those down. But even if you break those down, those lectins can cause a lot of inflammation, especially somebody with a leaky gut. So
that's what he talks about a lot, the leaky gut. And I always try to explain it to people because,
we only have one layer of epithelial cells in the intestinal lining, just one. We have some villi there protecting it. But once you damage that layer, we have poke holes, they're called tight junctions. And gluten is a great helper to open up those tight junctions, right? Causing leaky gut. And then next thing you know, we've got food intolerances and inflammation. You do this long enough, you create antibodies and you'll get an autoimmune most likely. So leaky gut's a thing. I test every single person I work with for it. And I would say most people have it. For sure, I would say 75% of the people I test have leaky gut.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So, the detox is really good for that. And I have products like Gut Sweep and Gut Reboot to help with that.
Question. My son-in-law is overweight and he went to the doctor and the doctor tells him that, he should eat peanuts as a snack. And I remember that's one of the things that Dr. Gundry said you shouldn't eat because it goes through your, whatever. And I keep saying blood-brain barrier, but I know it's not the blood-brain barrier because that's in your head. But so the reason, right, but you said a minute ago, just nuts. So I know about peanuts. Can you tell our audience what are some of the nuts that are bad for you that will go through this barrier?
Right. And just another word on peanuts. Peanuts carry an aflatoxin, which is basically mold. And peanuts are actually not a nut, it's a legume. So that's why it's high in lectins. So, I'm not a person who will say never, ever, never, ever, like, why are tomatoes bad? They're not bad. They're just not great for a lot of people. If you're in the state of inflammation, it's got great properties of lycopene and other great properties to it, but in moderation, right? And so, but if you're if you've got the fire raging and you got the squirt gun going and you need the hose, I would take the tomatoes out. Just while you get that fire out. Once the fire's out, have it occasionally. I have it occasionally, but I don't eat it all the time. I don't feel any different, but you're having a response in your intestinal lining that you're not even aware of. So nuts in itself are pretty good. I'm not a big fan of cashews just because they're also high in lectins. They're also high in fat, which is good, but peanuts are really the sort of the not good for you nut or legume.
Guess what? A doctor told him to eat that. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it. If I started an Instagram with everything somebody told me their doctor told them, people wouldn't believe it. I could totally, and I work with doctors all the time as clients. So I do believe it. It's crazy. So yeah, no, I wouldn't be doing that, taking that advice. But, and it's not so much that nuts are bad, it's that the proteins in them go through the holes in the intestinal lining. So it could be fish, it could be chicken, it could be something else or a nut that are really healthy for you. It's just that these, if you have a leaky gut, any kind of protein typically, I mean, I test for that. I can test for food allergies to see which proteins are going through. And
So
then,
for people that are listening, what's bad about a leaky gut?
so
Gut.
you don't want a leaky gut because exactly that reason that you're poking these holes and things are going through stress, toxins, food particles, organ malfunctions, bread, sugar, dairy, and alcohol are all going through and causing your body to go in the state of inflammation and cause food sensitivities, right?
Okay.
Not food allergies, but food sensitivities. And if you do that long enough, you'll create an autoimmune disease, right? The antibodies are created, so it's got a place to, it's got to park itself. So it's going to find an organ, a gland, or a tissue. So, you know, if it's fibromyalgia, it's your muscles. If it's rheumatoid arthritis, it's your joints. If it's thyroid, it's your, you know, Hashimotos, it's your thyroid. So it's, you know, you don't want antibodies, you don't want autoimmune diseases. So that's why you don't want a leaky gut. Also, it impairs everything, brain fog. I mean, it goes on and on, digestive issues, things like that. Your gut.
How do you test for a leaky gut?
I tested in a stool test.
Okay.
Yeah. And I find out in that stool test. Yeah, it's a great test, trust me. And occasionally we'll find like early stage cancer. Actually, I found it in a 35-year-old man who just wanted to lose some weight. And I just ordered the test because that's what I do for everybody. And we found a lot of blood, microscopic blood. And he went and had a colonoscopy. I said, you got to go stat. And he did. And they found 4 polyps. And it was eventually turned out to be cancer. But you know, he's fine now, but we caught it early. So again, prevention. So what did we do? So then now we're getting to low lectin. So, so autoimmune protocol, that's just really for people with autoimmunity. And what I recommend is 30 to 90 days. After that, it quells that inflammation. After that, you either jump on paleo or you jump on low lectin after that. And low lectin is just that. You know, Dr. Gundry didn't create low lectin, but he really brought it to the forefront. And lectins, as I said, those are that protective shield around the germ or the seed of plants. So it's in very high in legumes, grains, nightshades, peanuts, cashews also, and then different types of things. So if you go on a low lectin, it decreases your inflammation as well and increases your good gut health. So that's that. And then the last one is low FODMAP. And FODMAP is an acronym and it stands for fermented oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. And in plain English, that means different types of carbohydrates that they cause a lot of gas production is what happens. And so if you have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which is basically a non-diagnosis for some inflammation, which I find out on the stool test how much you have. But if you have inflammation in the intestinal lining, you either have IBS or IBD, irritable bowel disease, or SIBO, which I test people for, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And that is constant chronic bloating, and it's paired with either chronic diarrhea or chronic constipation. So if you have either of those 3, that is something that I recommend doing low FODMAP. So these are carbohydrates that absorb water and they tend to make you bloat. They create a prompt for methanobacteriaceae. It's a methane gas production. To go, and that these people know exactly, I'm talking to them now, they go, that's me. They know exactly who they are. Onions and garlic really jack them up big time. So they'll just feel really, really bloated. Yeah. And some other foods as well.
Wow. Yeah. I learned a lot from that synopsis of the diets. Wow. I love it. And, you know, as I'm listening to you, I am definitely more convinced that nutrition or knowing about nutrition is extremely important because everybody is guessing. And you're right. they pick up a book here, or they hear their friend is doing it, and everybody jumps on, and it doesn't work. Because one thing I know is that your digestive system is as unique as your fingerprint. So you can't actually, what works for me, I went to a nutritionist once, and she told me that I should eat oats every morning. Oats doesn't work for me for some unknown reason. So now I started back eating oats again. I'm oats again. I'm
You're on the sugar diet.
I'm eating oats and I'm eating peas. No wonder the scale is going up. But
Yeah.
I started eating oats again every morning. But what I do, I put protein powder in it. And because what oats was doing for me is that I'm hungry in an hour. So my digestive system doesn't work with it. So I'm trying to trick it by putting the protein powder in it. But I'm gonna
stick with the protein powder and get rid of the oats. Protein, fat, and fiber at every meal. I have a collagen shake every single day. Collagen helps leaky gut. It helps cellulite. It helps muscle. It helps hair, skin, and nails. It helps joint pain. I have probably 2 servings of collagen every single day. It's really good. It's a great protein source, very low in carb, protein, fat, and fiber. So I start off with coconut milk. I add coconut cream. I put today it had my chocolate collagen plus, which has the amino acids and antioxidants to help open up those detox pathways. And then I put some fiber in. So today I put in hemp seeds and spinach. So usually I do a seed and a green, and very, very filling. Takes you the distance. Your body doesn't need anything else. And I had maybe 3 carbs, 4 carbs for the day.
I am getting it. I am getting it. All right. So we come to the point where we're going to talk about, you went through your book as far as with the 6 different diets. So tell our listeners now where, about your book. It's called FoodFrame. Diet is a 4-letter word. And of course, I'm sure you can get it on Amazon, but tell us about, your website, your Instagram handle, and how people can get a hold of you for this amazing information that you're given.
Yeah, thank you. So I recommend everybody find out what their FoodFrame is. And you can take the quiz. It's only 12 questions on my website at Risa Groux Nutrition. It's RISA. Last name is GROUX, like X-ray nutrition.com. There you will find my book. There you will find my course, Achieving Optimal Thyroid Health. There you will find tons of articles and my product line, my detox, my collagen. I have collagen and collagen plus. That's more of the detox collagen. After you're done with the detox, you can stay on that for more liver detoxification. And then a plethora of other supplements I have these amazing collagen bars that are delicious, chocolate bars that are only 8 net carbs, and they're great. I have one almost every day. So Instagram is Risa Groux Nutrition. My TikTok is Risa Groux Nutrition. Facebook, Risa Groux Nutrition. And I work with people all over the world. We do it by Zoom. So you are welcome to, anybody's welcome to call and make an appointment. And we'll order labs. We'll send you a stool test at your home, and then we'll have you go to your local lab for blood work. And and then we'll just watch you heal and lose weight.
I absolutely love it. I'm going to become one of your clients. So that's amazing. I think I'm going to start with definitely the detox and the collagen and see how that works. But I've immediately figured out what my problem is. Immediately. Oats and peas, my goodness.
Yeah, isn't that great? So protein, fat, and fiber. So protein, animal protein, all the vegetables you want for lunch and for dinner, same thing. And then snack on some good fats or more vegetables or hard.
I was doing that because, that's one of the things I learned from the cruise. They always had a soup in the beginning, and that's what I was trying to, recreate. But then for the meal, it was always, vegetables and a protein. So that's basically what I was doing. I was just doing, and then of course I figured that I listening to my same doctor that I went to, he says that he was so slim because he eats his oats in the morning. And I thought, I should try that again.
Now you're the perfect example of one size does not fit all, right?
No, it does not. It does not. Okay, so that's amazing. All right, Risa, this was amazing. Wow. you know, like I said, nutrition is very important. And you guys that are listening, you have to have picked up at least a couple of nuggets from my conversation with Risa. Even if you go and figure out what a paleo diet is and look it up, and you know, she has a lot of articles on her website. So start there and educate yourself. Definitely pick up a copy of her book and learn nutrition and see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So,
And I talk about blood tests in the book too, what markers to order. I have a whole thing and all that. And then I have recipes. So I have about 7 recipes for each diet type, and they're easy. I don't have a lot of time to cook, so they're easy.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, guys. So that website again was Risa Groux nutrition.com, and Groux is spelled Groux. For my listeners, you know that you can find a transcript of my conversation with Risa on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. And I would have links out to her website, and she's offering a 10% discount. She's going to send me the coupon code for that. So that will be on the website, blog.myhelps.us. And definitely pick up a copy of her book. Head over to their website, get some of her products. I will definitely be heading there straight after this call. And, you know, try those collagen shakes. And I am sure that I need a good detox. So I will definitely start there. Thank you, Risa. This was a very interesting conversation, very illuminating, very educational. And I hope that you learned as much from my conversation with Risa as I did. We're fresh out of time. So Risa, any last words before we wrap up?
You know, the one suggestion I would say for people is just eat food, real whole food, without chemicals, without a package. You'll feel much better.
Yes, it's true. Yep, that was part of your intro on your bios. That's right. Whole foods. It's great. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you for tuning in to Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life. Here we're talking about nutrition today, how nutrition can definitely transform your life by having you transform your mind on the foods that you're eating. So thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.